Dear students, in this lesson, we shall examine the various agencies of socialization. Socialization is a process whereby individuals are made aware of behaviors that are expected of them with regards to the norms, beliefs, attitudes, and values of the society in which they live. Socialization helps the individual to face realities of life. As a result of appreciate his culture practices. The agencies of socialization are the social institutions that form part of the passing on to the people of the norms, values, beliefs, and attitudes. There are several agencies of socialization which are developmental, anticipatory, resocialization, reverse, primary, and secondary socialization. However, the main agencies are the primary socialization, which is a process where people learn attitudes, values, and action appropriate to individual as members of a particular culture. Also is secondary socialization. This is a process where individuals learn appropriate behaviors as members of a smaller group within the larger society. Under the primary agencies is the family, peer groups, opinion leaders. The family, being the integral part of every individual upbringing, is one of the most important agencies of socialization. The family has the power to influence individual self-concept, emotions, attitude, and behavior. Agencies of socialization. The child is socialized by several agencies and institutions in which he or she participates, viz. His or her family, school, peer group, the neighborhood, the occupational group, and by the social class. The position of the family in the social structure is determined by the social class, caste, religion, etc., and by the fact that the family lives in the rural or in the urban areas. We shall also mention some of the other factors which are important. For example, there is variation in the socialization process according to whether one is rich or poor, whether one is a tribal or not tribal, whether one is a boy or a girl, or whether one is a child or an adult. The differentiation in socialization may also be reflected through music, rituals, language, art and literature, which form part of one's culture consisting of complex set of variables. These are the factors and agencies which introduce the differentiation in the socialization process within different societies. These are very crucial and should be taken into account to dispel the impression that socialization is uniform across all societies or within a particular society. We shall first discuss some of the factors responsible for the variation in the socialization process, namely age, religion, caste, region, etc. In the next section, we discuss the different agencies of socialization, namely family, school, etc., which also prevent uniformity. In the last section, we outline the role of gender and the mass media, especially television, since these cut across all boundaries. Growing up, the socialization process in infancy and childhood is different from that during adulthood. Some social scientists divide socialization into stages of the life of an individual. Some have referred to various Hindu rites or samskaras as being equivalent to different stages. In addition, there are the ashrams which divide the life of an individual into stages. There are various traditional Hindu rites or samskaras which divide childhood into several stages. These are Namakarana, Nishakarmana, Annaprasanna, Chudakarana or tonsure, Vidyaramba and Upanayana. Moreover, traditionally the division of an individual's life into 4 stages, namely Brahmacharya, Grihastha-ashrama, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, are a direct reflection of the socialization of a Hindu male. The agencies of socialization change as the individual matures. For example, school and the peer group compete with the family for access to the individual through childhood and adolescence. The occupational group and the newly established family after marriage become more important during adulthood. Religion and socialization. Difference in the socialization processes and practices is noticeable among certain religious communities. As for example, the rites and ceremonies, customs, dress, sometimes language and beliefs, attitudes and values, and the behavior patterns of Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, or Muslims are different. These may be at variance with one another, although some of the external symbols such as dress, speech, and deportment have become uniform for all religious groups in the big cities during the last few years, so that it has become difficult to distinguish members of one religious community from another on the basis of dress, etc. In the villages, a significant section of people are continuing to wear their traditional dresses and can still be distinguished on the basis of these outward symbols. In addition, and more importantly, the emphasis on what constitutes a good Hindu or a good Muslim or a good Sikh or a good Christian also creates differences in the values and behavior of members of a larger society. For instance, a good Muslim must perform prayers 5 times a day. A Christian must attend church on Sundays. A Sikh should do service at Gurudwara, and a Hindu must give charity in the temples. Similarly, further subdivisions can be drawn on the basis of Shaivite and Vaishnavite Brahmins of southern India. So also the marriage ceremony and rites differ among those who follow the Arya Samaj and Sanatana Dharma, the two Hindu sects in the Punjab. Thus, the differences are not confined to religious ideology, but are reflected in the socialization process through the beliefs, attitudes, norms, and behavior patterns of the people belonging to these sects and subsects. Differences in socialization. A city-bred person who comes across a person from the village is likely to notice him or her because of the differences in their dress, speech, and their deportment. The villager is recognizable not only by the outward symbols mentioned, but also by his or her values, norms, and behavior patterns he or she upholds and considers appropriate. On the other hand, a person living in a village will be struck by the difference in dress, speech, and deportment of those who belong to the city. You may have often heard that a person hailing from a village or a small town feels that people in a city are too involved in their own affairs to be bothered about their guests or the elders in the family. These differential responses are the outcome of differential socialization processes in the rural and urban areas. An Indian villager generally believes that a guest is to be honored in the same manner as God himself, and whatever his or her capacity may be, will not neglect a guest. But a city person, especially in the metropolis, may not welcome a guest who has no prior appointment. Reason for visit becomes an essential criterion. It is not that a city person does not desire or know how to honor a guest, but other lifestyle factors such as living space, expensive everyday expenditure, children's education often forces people to curtail excessive entertainment of guests. Thus, circumstances change the values which ideally are believed by most Indians. The caste factor. If you are living in a village or in a small town, you may be aware of the behavior that is expected of you as a member of a small town. Thus, there are certain value norms and behavior patterns that are common to most villages. Certain rituals and ceremonies may also be common to all the members of a village. However, a village community is also divided into small groups called castes. The castes are divided on the basis of birth because people are born into them. You may be at least able to distinguish a Brahmin from a Harijan, or you may even be able to distinguish a blacksmith from a goldsmith or from a washerman. Therefore, within a village, there are likely to be subcultures, while the culture of a village itself may have something in common which is shared by all its members and bind all the members together. The language or the dialect also tends to vary. The upper castes speak more refined and sophisticated form of the language than spoken by the lower castes. Similarly, there are differences in the dress that is considered appropriate or inappropriate for a particular caste. Again, the behavior that is considered proper by one caste may not be so considered by the other. For example, vegetarianism may not be so considered by the other. For example, vegetarianism may be more popular among the Brahmins than among other castes. Socialization in tribes. The socialization process differs according to whether it occurs in a tribe or non-tribe. We shall give extracts of the socialization process in a tribe called Muria, which inhabits the vast district of Madhya Pradesh in central India. However, this should not give the impression that the Muria represent the whole tribal culture. There are several tribes in India about which you have read in units 5 and 6. There are tremendous variations in the socialization process, among them as are in the non-tribal world. Therefore, this example of socialization process among the Murias is only one such example. You may be able to think of several others. If you meet people from different parts of India or have such friends, you may notice the differences. Other institutions. The Gotuls, similar institutions are found among communities of Austro-Asiatic cultures. However, Basta Gotul is highly developed and the most organized in the world. One could think of communes in contemporary society, as for example, the kibbutz in Israel, where an effort was made to bring up children on community basis by taking them away from their families. Similar institutions are found among other tribes in India. As for example, the village god room among the Nagas and the boys' club among the Orya. Gotul for the Murias is the center of social and religious life. It also assigns educational tasks among children. All unmarried Muria boys and girls from the village from the age of 5 or 6 years are members of Gotul. They sleep at night in the Gotul and are directly responsible for its care and maintenance. During the day, they go to their parents' home and help them in various tasks. They leave the Gotul after marriage. The membership of Gotul is carefully organized. After a period of testing, boys and girls are initiated and given a special title which carries graded rank and social duty. Leaders are appointed to organize and discipline the society. The boys' leader is Sardar and the girls' Belosa. Boy members are known as Chalik and girl members as Motiari. The relations between Chalik and Motiari are governed by the customary rules and regulation of Gotul to which they belong. Indeed, Gotul teaches discipline and introduces the feeling of fraternity and friendship among its members. Family, social class, and socialization. These two dimensions are being taken together because family here includes not only the size, the composition, and the type, but the social position. The social position of a family is determined by caste, race, and social class, etc. However, it is the last dimension, namely social class, which have received attention of sociologists in the West, while race too has been given some importance. Not many studies on socialization with reference to family or caste or any other dimension or agency have been undertaken in India. Therefore, we shall depend on our own observations to illustrate the relationship between family and socialization. We shall also take examples from other countries to substantiate the relationship between social class, family, and socialization in the context of school. It has already been mentioned that a key agency of socialization in all human societies is the family, which transforms the young infant into a member of human community. It is the first prolonged and intimate interaction system the individual encounters after birth. However, the things that members of a given family wish to teach or transmit to the child are limited by that family's unique historical and societal experience. As a result of this, we observe familial differences in child rearing politics as well as attitudinal and behavioral outcomes regarding social relationships and skills. Each child is more or less uniquely prepared for the cultural reality that his or her family has experienced or wishes to experience. Behavior and family. Family inculcates attitudes relating to proper behavior, decision making, and obedience to authority, etc. In addition, children learn the attitudes and skills necessary to play a role in the production and consumption of goods and services. Each family adopts division of labor regarding family tasks and prepares its young for the notion of work. Thus, early socialization into economic roles also takes place within the family. As contact with others grows, other alternatives become available to the child. He or she is introduced to the new social institutions or agencies such as the school and the peer group in the neighborhood. The influence of parents is reduced because new reference groups such as peer group become more important. Thus, a number of secondary group relations and pressures must be coped with by the child alongside the group relations learnt initially in the family. A number of studies have been undertaken on the effect of family background on the educational performance of the child, which are pertinent to socialization. One of the salient findings of these studies is the negative impact of a school on a child if he or she belongs to a working class home with little emphasis on cognitive achievement. This is because the school emphasizes good results and a behavior pattern which is aligned to the child's family. Moreover, researchers have also pointed out that middle class parents, more than working class parents, are likely to put emphasis on the need for success in studies to reinforce the socializing function of the school and stress, in general, achievement oriented values. Again, a relationship is seen between the occupational role of the father and the difference in the socialization orientations of the children. For instance, since a working class father has less autonomy and satisfaction in the work situation, he tends to be authoritarian and severe towards his family members, especially his son. Socialization and communication. The importance of language and difference in the pattern of communication between parents and children according to social class are the other dimensions which have been studied by sociologists, notable among them being Basil Bernstein. According to him, patterns of language use and the teaching styles are class-based. He saw a relationship between social structure, forms of speech, and the subsequent regulation of behavior in the schools. For example, he argued that children from different social classes respond differently to educational opportunities, and an important determinant of their response to the school's cognitive aims and teacher style, etc., is the language or linguistic code of the child. He also argued that different social structures produce different types of speech systems. As the child learns his speech, he learns the requirements of his social structure, which vary according to social class. Therefore, the language of the working class child is limited in vocabulary, while that of the middle class child does not suffer from this limitation. The teacher is, by and large, from the middle class and can communicate better with the middle class child since they share the same linguistic code or language with its vocabulary, meanings, syntax, etc. Thus, the working class child cannot communicate as well with the teacher and begins with a handicap which affects him or her throughout his or her school career because of this restricted cooperation. The same factors can be observed in schools in India, where most teachers came from upper caste or class backgrounds in schools, and students who belonged to scheduled caste or tribes could not sometimes even understand the language of the teacher. let alone feel at par with other upper caste or class students. Several studies have been undertaken linking different dimensions of schooling with the family of the child. We have only given some examples to demonstrate the importance of family and social class in socialization at home and outside the home, particularly in the school. However, we may also mention that these studies merely indicate a direction and are not conclusive. School and socialization. School is used here to refer to a whole range of formal educational institutions which are the characteristics of the contemporary industrial and industrializing urban complex societies. We shall only mention here that schools provide two contexts for the students. The first is the formal context of the classroom, wherein the content of socialization is determined by the textbooks and the cognitive aims of the process of teaching. The second context is informal and can be perceived in the interpersonal relations of students with teachers and those among students, peer group. Social control comes to be exercised by the school, and the increased professionalization of teaching helps to undermine the authority based of the family as a socializing agency. Again, the content of socialization as well as the knowledge to be transmitted become the focus of the curriculum and syllabi and a set of carefully prescribed practices. What parents did or do by instinct and with love, professionals must do with clear regulations and justifications. The socialization process within the school may or may not supplement and reinforce the process within the family. In fact, it may be in conflict with the socializing values, norms, and behavior patterns of the family. Conclusion. An agent of socialization is something that affects you as an individual and thus the society as a whole. There are many agents of socialization, but what are the most important in society with the most profound impact? The family, peer groups, and school. The family. This is part of the primary earlier socialization and arguably is the most important one. Why? Because the family has such a major impact on our families. It is from them that we get our ascribed status, fit into gender roles, language, habits, initial beliefs and values and religion. The wealth and connections our families have also determined our life and job opportunities. The values and beliefs we learn and internalize whilst in our family may be modified throughout our life, but will never really fade away. The family is the first form of socialization we experience. Without them, we would be inadequately socialized. School is the second agent. In school, we are treated as a group rather than individuals. We learn many things there from the formal curriculum, maths, English, blah blah, and hidden curriculum, norms, values, how to act, talk to people, etc. Why is it important? Because we learn to interact socially. We learn how to talk to people, conform and follow or obey rules which are important because we have to conform to society's rules later in life. We acquire intimate friendships. We gain knowledge, learn the system of reward and punishment, discipline, obedience, learn moral values. For example, don't lie, don't throw food, don't hit that kid. Peer groups. These are groups of people around the same age as you and in the same status. Adults and children have peer groups. Think of your group of friends as a kid. Then think of your colleagues in your workplace as an adult. The influence of peer groups are more influential when we are adolescents, particularly because we are going through a process where we are trying to learn ourselves, gain an identity. Why is it important? because our peer groups are who we hang out with the most. We are in their company quite a bit, and thus it is only natural that we should be influenced by them to some extent. They influence the way we dress, the slang we use, the places we go, the music we listen to, etc. Peer groups, however, can also exert peer pressure on negative things, such as drinking, violence, maybe even hate crimes, etc.